back to Sound Pollution. This week, I am riding solo as my co-host is away. And we will make sure to poke a little bit of fun at him for not being here, but not too much because everybody needs family time and downtime. This week, I am touching base with Joe of Elephants and Dogs. It's going to be great to catch up with him and hear all about his new album that was released in the past month. If you haven't downloaded it yet, go to Bandcamp and do it now. We have our first live show coming up this month in Austin, Texas, the 26th at the Carousel Lounge. Doors will open at 7 and we are going to close that bitch down, so make sure you come out and see us. Acts will include Andy Serber and Thumper Salyer, Round Rock Rick, Uncle Brett, and Trashy Annie. You're not going to want to miss it, and all the proceeds will benefit Meals on Wheels. So we're just going to jump into this fabulous interview. It's going to be so great to catch up. Welcome back to the show. It's so great to have you back. It's so nice to see your face.
It's nice to see you too. Thank you for having me.
How have you been doing?
I've been good. It's been busy. I'm done school now, so just trying to, working part-time and trying to focus on music. So I'm doing a lot of music stuff lately. I just got back from tour.
Yep. I was going to ask. I saw you on tour.
Yeah. So
how did that go? Was that the first big tour that you've done? Because you went to a lot of cities.
That was the first big tour that I did with a band called The Wilderness that I've known for a long time. They asked me to join on guitar. So, yeah, that was crazy. Great experience.
What was your favorite place you visited that you played at? Can you remember? Can you pick one?
Yeah, I would say probably when we were out west, we played on this buffalo ranch in Golden, BC.
Nice.
Yeah.
I bet that was so pretty in the morning.
It was gorgeous.
They had a good turnout?
Yeah.
Nice.
And, so the Golden show was really interesting because it was like just a private show for the owner of the ranch and his friends. So it was like really intimate and really nice. Just the sunset in the mountains was just gorgeous. Yeah.
So let's talk about, first I want to talk about the title. Let's talk about Everybody's Smiling, Nobody's Happy. I keep wanting to reverse it in my head. I'm sorry. What was the inspiration for that title?
Yeah. There was something that happened. It was like, I feel like sometimes in your life, you're in a situation where you're like, wow, this is like a scene from a movie or something. So it was something like that happened where the album title came and I was like, okay, yeah, that's going to be the name of the album, and then I guess, but really it's just more about today, social media.
As soon as I saw the title, I was like, why does this feel like social media? It's all bullshit.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of conversations I have, it starts out like, oh, how are you doing? Oh, like, I'm great. Then like 5 minutes later, it's like, actually, not that great,
Actually, I cried 10 minutes before I got here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess it's just a reference to that. I think everyone feels and everyone relates to it, so.
I related to it, and I loved, and so did my daughter. My daughter actually I keep bringing her up, but every time you and Bill do something new, I throw it towards her because she really likes shoegaze.
Oh, great.
And, yeah. And she was like, is the cover of his album all fucking smiling emojis? And I was like, yeah. She was like, they're so cool.
So I have to give credit to my girlfriend for that. Bill and I were looking at different artists to make an album cover, and then basically, time crunch sort of, like, we sort of ended up in a little bit of a time crunch and we needed artwork. So my girlfriend was like, why don't you just go to the dollar store, get a bunch of smiley face stickers and just like make a collage. And
genius.
Yeah, it was genius. I went home, I did it, I sent it to Bill. Bill loved it. And, I've gotten like lots of compliments on the album cover, which is, I'm really happy about because I love it too, so.
You said there was like a time crunch with the album cover. I felt like between your last album and this album, there was just a little short space of time. To me, it didn't feel like there was that much space. Did you just have these songs on the back burner, or were they coming to you that fast?
No, they came to me that fast. We might have talked about this. It might not have been included in the interview, but we might have talked about this last time. Like, when the EP came out, it had got, like, all these streams, and it seemed like all this attention and stuff, and I started getting anxiety about, like, being able to follow it up with music that would be just as good.
The sophomore slump, yep.
Yeah, so I was sort of like stress writing and all sorts, like just trying my best to like throw together as many songs as possible. And honestly, as the year went on, a lot of those songs came. Like, I think the last song that we recorded that went on the album, like, was just about 3 months ago or 3 or 4 months ago that, like, I don't think any of those songs were songs that I had before the EP. They were all written between the EP and the album.
When songs come to you that fast, is it just like when you're doing random tedious tasks, or is it waking you up at night? What's your process with that?
It's two things. One is I was playing a lot of guitar and piano. Like, I was really trying to make an album, and there was a lot of songs that just got cut because they were horrible, because when you stress write, not everything you make's great.
No. I have a pile of lyrics that are like never going to be used. Go ahead.
Like, yeah, you know what I mean. Like, and so half of it was I was spending a lot of time focusing on it, but then the other half was, Zach and I, and I've talked about this in the past, like, our process is like we sit down and we have to finish a song by the end of the night. And that's how the EP was made, and the best songs on the album were made that way too. Yeah,
my favorite song you did, Why He Was Stuck in Traffic.
Yes.
So yeah, I was like jealous a little. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's like I would come up with like maybe a shell of an idea as because I was working on it and thinking about the album, and then when I'd get together with Zach, the rest of it would come together in our Elephants and Dogs process. So it's a mixture of those two things, I would say. But yeah, they did come fast. I honestly think that, like, old Divine Intervention, I was really stressed about making an album, and I've never made an album before. Like, even though I've played in a few different bands, we've only ever done EPs. So I thought, like, oh, it's going to be like a double EP or something. But no, right. It takes a long time to put it all together, to make songs that will fit together cohesively. It really was like a long process. So the fact that the songs just like came to me, and with the Elephants and Dogs, workflow, held true and still worked. I'm just grateful for all of that. Yeah.
Did you enjoy the album writing process, or did you feel like it was a little too much, like you prefer EPs?
I prefer EPs.
Okay. I'm hearing a lot of people say that lately.
Yeah. It's just because I am, at the time I was also like a student, and I was also working part-time, and it takes a long time to make an album in like I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't necessarily take a long time to make songs, but it takes a long time to make an album. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it makes total sense, which makes it even more impressive, because there really isn't that much space. I feel like it was like the end of one year and then now. It was so fast.
I'm happy to hear that, yeah.
Yeah, and I enjoyed both, but I am going to tell you, this album is phenomenal.
Oh,
and I'm not just kissing your butt. Like, this album is amazing, and it's getting really, really good reviews from other people. The most up and coming artist on Lookup Records was one that stuck out to me, and I was like, wow. And so young. You are still really young. So, and you just finished school. Congratulations. That's a big plate of stuff on you.
Yeah, this past year has been insane. It has been so crazy.
But has it been fun?
It has been so fun. I've been looking back on this year, and it's not even over yet. We still have some more stuff coming up, and like, I always said that, like, when I finish school, I'm going on tour. When I finish school, like, I'm going to finally do music. You went on tour while you were. Yeah, exactly. And then
this guy, I was like, this is one of the most hardworking kids. You and Bill are some of the most hardworking musicians out there, honestly. I meet a lot of musicians on the show, and I meet a lot of great musicians. But not everybody works as hard as you guys. You guys are always fucking doing something. I think my co-host is like that, too. If he's not doing this, he's writing. He's just like... Do you ever get, like, super tired?
Yeah, I do.
Like, like finally fuzz out? Because I've been fuzzing out a lot towards the end of the year. I'm like, this year's been really cool, but I just want to be left alone and sleep.
So I remember the very last night that Zach and I worked on the album. It was the last day of my school placement, so it was like technically my last day of school. We got together in his basement. Like, this album was just made in everyone's basement, seems like.
That's the best way to do it, though. Basements and garages.
Basements and garages, yeah. So we're in his basement. It's like 1 a.m. We tracked the last things. We're sitting back and we're just listening to it. And I think I posted in my story, like, tonight I sleep. Like,
tonight I did see that, actually.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
So,
you're going to hit a wall. Let's talk about one of those songs. Let's talk about, well, wait, before we get to that, I feel like Wednesday's Child was the one you told me when I was like, are you going to play Pine Valley? And you were like, no, I got something better.
Yes, I remember that.
I knew it.
We do play like last night was our album release show, and we have like a version of Pine Valley that we're able to play with no piano. That's really cool, that I like a lot, so.
So let's talk about Wednesday's Child.
Mm-hmm.
What is that about?
Wednesday's Child is, I don't know if you know, there's like this nursery rhyme that's like, Monday's child, la-da-da, Tuesday's child, da-di-da, Wednesday's child, full of woe, Thursday's child has far to go.
I have not heard that.
No, a lot of people.
Is that a Canadian thing?
I think it's like a British English.
Okay.
One. I tried to look into it. Cause yeah, when I first played it on stage, I said like, does anyone know this nursery rhyme? And no one knew it. So.
You were like, okay, cool, just me. Cool.
Yeah, just me. Yeah, that's fine.
No anxiety. It's fine.
So, but my mom would always like say this nursery rhyme, and Wednesday's child is full of woe, and I was born on a Wednesday, and so it's just like this idea of, you know, always being, you know, everybody's smiling, nobody's happy. It just seemed like it fit that theme, and it's more of like an autobiographical song, and I love songs like Pine Valley that just build and build and build, and I had to end the album on a guitar solo, on like a crazy guitar solo. So
I know Brent's going to be so jealous of this interview because he always wants to talk about your guitar playing.
Thank you.
How long did that solo take to write? Did it just fucking come to you because you're killing me with this?
You know what? I hope that this is the truth. I think I only recorded, so it's basically like, the Pine Valley technique that Zach and I do is like I'll record 2 or 3 solos, and he will phase one in and then phase one out, and like
that's really smart.
Yeah, so that it's like different guitar tones, so it sort of stays interesting, but then it also sounds like things are swooping in and out. So I think I recorded 2 guitar solos, and that was it. We never went back and redid it. So I think it was like in technically in one take.
Technically in one take. Okay.
Yeah, because like I call these reckless abandon guitar solos in my band Jimbo. We have like similar guitar solos too, and when you do a reckless abandon guitar solo, you don't want to go back and you don't want to think about it too much. It needs to be like crazy.
So explain to the listeners what a reckless guitar abandon, whatever you just said, because it's early and I'm still drinking this.
It's a concept I have.
Okay.
That I have some favorite guitar solos of all time. One of them is Cult of Personality by In Living Color. Vernon Reid plays a reckless abandon guitar solo. Jimi Hendrix, like a lot of the great Jimi Hendrix solos are just reckless abandon guitar solos. Like there's a lot of great
where they
examples.
Just make it up on the spot and then they walk away. Is that what that means? Kinda?
Yeah, you play as fast as possible. You play notes that aren't even in a key. You bend just into the stratosphere. You just like have zero regard for human life, zero regard for your own safety. Just reckless abandon guitar. I wanted to make like I don't make YouTube videos, but if I did, it would be like top 5 reckless abandon guitar solos.
You should do that.
Yeah, I would love to, because this is a concept that I always think of in my head, and I'm sure someone's written a blog post about it, but just guitar solos that just have very little melodic content, but also like very insane melodic content. Like, I don't know how to describe it. Like, in the guitar solo for Cult of Personality, he plays a melody that is just all dive bombs. Like, I don't even know how you would write that on a staff of music. Like, it's...
He probably didn't. I'm going to go with he didn't.
No, he didn't.
But whoever had to, like, do you know how back in the day we used to have to, like, actually go to Guitar Center or Amoeba Records, God, I'm old, and, like, to get the music you had to buy the book with the music in it, and it would hopefully have the little guitar chords at the top. Yep. Whoever had to decipher that hated him.
So, funny story, on a school trip in, like, grade 9, we went to Chicago, and we went to we went to this music store, and I was flipping through a guitar solo book, and someone tabbed out the guitar solo to that song, and it was, I remember I took a picture of it. It was mayhem. It was like, I don't even know how you'd learn how to play this solo.
I can't even read tab. But I would not want to write it, and I would not. There's just some guitar solos, I think, like, that are really fast. Like you said, Jimi Hendrix. Anybody who had to write the music and go back was just like, Jesus Christ, what did I get? I hope they got paid real well.
I'm sure they do, because I buy those books and they're pretty expensive sometimes.
They are not. They're like $30-$40.
Yeah, but yeah, these specifically the Reckless Abandon ones, like, I don't know how you would learn it or tap it out, but that's what makes them great. It's like a pure expression of whatever is in your soul. Like, I had someone tell me that people with that depression is a silent temper tantrum. It's like those strong emotions you feel.
Silent temper. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't get expressed as anger or as outward emotion. It just sort of implodes, like, inward. And so he's, at least in my mind, like, the Wednesday's Child solo was like that kind of.
It was a temper tantrum.
It was my temper. You listen to the whole album, and it's it's synthy and sad and all this stuff, and at the end you get that final, everything strips away, like the walls start to crumble, and it's like, it's no longer pretty. It's no longer it's no longer that nicely structured album anymore. It's like everybody's smiling, nobody's happy.
And I have to say, Wednesday's Child had a different feel than the rest of the tracks. It, to me, I mean, it was great. Please, I loved it. But it had more of an old school grunge. I'm a little bit angry. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really trying to hang on. Now I understand why.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I write, most of the songs I write are like grunge 90s songs. Like, Jimbo is like a sort of grunge inspired 90s style band. So my default writing is in that style. So like the first, I don't know how to describe it, draft of the album I sent to Bill, there was a few different songs that were super like that. And Bill was like, I don't know if this is an Elephants and Dogs sound. And he was completely right.
He was trying to keep you cohesive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, which is great to have someone. And I
He's
knew
like, the
that
songs were good, but it's just, that's going to have to be something else.
Exactly. And I knew that myself too. And it's good to have someone else say that to you, and especially someone in like a leadership role. So I went back to the drawing board a little bit and made a couple different songs and took some stuff out. And but that Wednesday's Child, like, he agreed to as like the last song of the album. It's good to have that vibe. It fits. It makes sense. Yeah.
It almost felt extra special. And, like, oh my God, I'm just going to keep aging myself. Back in the day on CDs, and I think they still do it now sometimes, but it'll like pop up as like a video on TikTok instead of the hidden track. But they always, like, bands would have like hidden tracks that would be like 5 minutes after the album was over, and then there was this badass song. Yeah. And you're like, yes, and it was different than the rest. It really felt like that to me.
Thank you. That's what I was going for too. And Zach and I had this interesting conversation because it's Wednesday's Child / Everybody's Smiling, Nobody's Happy. And I've always seen that on albums, and I've always thought, oh, that's so silly. Like, why would you go / another name? Like, why don't you just make a separate song? And when we recorded that track, and when I was thinking about what to name it, it really made sense to call it Wednesday's Child / because there is, like, Zach and I joked when we were like listening back to the recording, like, Wednesday's Child ends, there's like just a little bit of silence, and then Everybody's Smiling, Nobody's Happy just starts right away.
It felt like a secret track. It was really cool.
Yeah. So I'm glad that it felt that way because that's what we were going for. So
that was
great.
my favorite song on the whole album.
How do you feel when you
So it's interesting because like when I made the EP, something that really like was really surprised by is how much everyone loved Pine Valley. I really thought that like no one would like that song because it's sort of emotional and slow and like weird. Everybody loved it, and so when I made the album,
that guitar solo to this day, I'm just like 22. What is happening? So good. Go ahead.
Thank you. So when I made the album, I wanted there to be another like Pine Valley, the sequel. And so that's what Wednesday's Child was supposed to be. So to hear you say that makes me feel like it's a job well done. Like my goal that I had was actually reached because
it was reached.
Thank you.
It was.
Yeah.
I mean, also though, I had that little nugget in the back of my head from Look Up Fest that was like, I think that's the one he said.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, and where you had that little second of silence and it switched over, I was like, oh yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Thank you. I remember that. Yeah.
That was such a fun thing. We'll touch base on that. So we talked a little bit about the album and the thought process. But we seem to be touching on a little bit of like depression and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is that okay if we talk about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you struggle with? Did you find a way to put that out in music?
Definitely. Like that's almost all my songs are about that. And like at the time that I started making the album, I was seeing this therapist who was great. I liked him a lot.
Good for you. Hold on. I want all my listeners to go to fucking therapy. Go to therapy. It'll make you feel better. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it was interesting because he himself was a musician, a different kind of musician, but we talked about it a lot. We talked about music a lot, and he really liked my EP. He like had added it and listened to it and stuff, and we talked about songs on the EP and songs that I was going to put on the album. And so yeah, definitely I feel like there's a very strong link between those two things. And in an interview, a written interview that I think was, I don't know if it's been put out yet or not, but I basically say that I feel like, at least in my experience, like there's two voices. There's one voice is that says give up, and then there's another voice that's like, go brush your teeth, or like just, stand up, like you can, just gives you those little pep talks, right?
Right.
And I think music, and this album specifically, is like, it's coming straight from that pep talk voice, and it's sort of surreal that the album's out and that people are listening to it and stuff, because like, to me personally, it's such the pep talk voice. And I am just like, I think that side of it, its tool is music for me. I think for everyone it's different. Maybe it's exercise, or maybe it's painting, or anything. For me, it's like when that voice is losing power and it needs to like bring me back, it's like music is how it does it. So
right.
Yeah.
Music is very healing. It can be used as therapy. I have really, really, really awful anxiety, which is like, and when it builds, like, especially in social, like, I'm good right now, but if you saw at Look Up Fest, I was like, oh my God, there's too many fucking people. I can't. And then like, I went back to the hotel, and I was like, I put on headphones, like the old school, really big headphones, and I turn it all the way up. And that like really helps change over the I'm gonna die feelings.
Yeah, because it is sort of like a cloud, right? And it's like,
it is, and it's heavy, and it's like, how can a cloud be heavy? I don't know how to explain it. And another thing I told Brent recently, and I told him to use it in a lyric, or if he doesn't, I was gonna, but having a panic attack is like there's a demon sitting on your chest, and his tail is wrapped up your spine.
Yeah.
And he's playing you. He's playing you like a guitar.
Exactly, yeah. It's true. And it's, it's interesting, like, I found it helpful to sort of personify, like, those issues, like, when I was talking with my therapist, and, like, sometimes when you see it that way, though, and when you sort of, like, put a spotlight on it, like he would say, it's sometimes easier to realize, like, oh, I've got to put on headphones right now, because that's how I beat you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's loud and angry, and it should make me more anxious, but it doesn't. Like, death metal all the way.
Yeah.
And it probably on the outside I look really calm and peaceful, but inside it's like,
yeah.
I don't know why it works.
Yeah. Well, you know what's funny? Sometimes those heavier styles of music, like, that people probably associate with, like, maybe negative feelings, like, help me the most too, like a heavy riff and stuff like that. That always makes me self-affirming. Yeah.
I like how you took those feelings and put them into an album, and that you're very willing to talk about it. I don't think enough people talk about it. Men especially need to be talking about these things more.
Thank you. And so what happened was when I was making the album, I was like, oh, I'm going to make all these nonsense lyrics. I'm not going to say anything personal. I'm going to like get onto the playlist.
How'd that work for you?
Yes. and very early on in the process, I realized like I am not going to be able to make this album unless I say exactly what's on my mind. And if I get messages from people saying like, hey, are you okay? Like, that's fine. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just really said stuff that was on my mind, and I'm still a little concerned, you know. So I don't know. Apparently, my mom went to some wedding, and some like I guess like a family friend said, "Oh, like you know, I hear Joe is making music. I hear it's really dark." My
no. She was probably like, yeah, that's how he works through it. It's a really good album, though.
Yeah, well, I don't know if my mom had listened to the album yet, and she was like, oh, it's really dark. She's like, Joseph, is your album really dark?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? Yeah. I'm like, that's my biggest fear. I don't want people to read too much into it, but, you know.
But it's true, and it is there. I mean, music's supposed to be an outlet for those things, and those kind of darker songs, like, I remember REM's big album, and it had a real impact on me because I was like, oh my God, I am not alone. You could be doing the same thing with this album.
And I hope, I hope so. And also, I think that's why I'm more comfortable talking about it now is that I made this album and it's out there and it's public and people are going to see it. So I might as well just talk about it because it's out there now. So I can't really hide anymore.
No, you can't. And that's a good thing. Like I said, especially for men, I think a lot of the time, I think our society in general has done a man a disservice with, stiffen up that upper lip soldier and we don't talk about our feelings and have a whole album like that. It's going to mean something to somebody. You may never meet them, but it's going to mean something to somebody.
I thank you. I hope so. I think on the tour that I did with The Wilderness, like The Wilderness have fantastic music and a lot of their songs.
You look them up.
Yeah. I think on their tour, because I've been a fan of their music for a long time before I joined their band, I think. So I love their songs, and playing their songs, like half of me is thinking like, oh my God, I love this part of the song. Like half of me is like feeling like I'm in the audience, and the other half is like, oh shit, like I've got to play guitar.
It is.
Yeah. But like I think what they realize is a lot of people would come up to them and tell them really emotional stories about their songs. And I even said to them, like, I don't think you'll ever realize the impact your music has had on people. And seeing their experience with that, and what a beautiful thing it is, it definitely inspires me with my own music too. And I hope some people listen to the album and they feel not alone and they feel that there's somewhere they can go to and listen to it. And yeah. Cause there's a lyric on Black Sheep. I guess we'll talk about Black Sheep, but,
yeah. We'll just dive into that now.
We can just dive into it now, yeah.
Dive into it now.
There's a lyric, and it's the last chorus. So the song is a little the lyrics are pretty pessimistic, but the very last chorus is, but I'm breaking out, gonna remove all this plastic. It's time for some drastic changes to my life. Like that is that's from that other voice, that positive voice. Like I almost feel like
get up. I know you feel like shit, but get up.
I feel like I didn't even write that. Like that just was. I think what happened is maybe I was writing the song and that voice was like, okay, you said all the sad stuff, like you need to end it with this because otherwise this is a too pessimistic, dark song and we're not ending the song like this. So.
I like that. I noticed that and I like that. Maybe this is just what the song meant to me. I listened to it last night. It might have also been the wine. It might have also been that I have therapy today. It was probably all of it. But I was listening to it, and very cool video, by the way. It went, like, back to basics. That song felt like breaking generational curses, which is something that I'm actively working on.
Okay.
And when you do that, sometimes you have to deal with those emotions, and then like to have it at the end, make that little swing. And I was like, yeah, it sucks at Christmas, but the rest of the year there's no toxic fucking family members, and it's fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Like so sometimes when I write songs, I think like, oh, Joe, your life's not that bad. You're making it sound so much worse.
That's what depression does, though. Yeah.
That is what depression does. But then I also think, maybe sometimes people who are in tougher situations or are in their own tough situations will hear it and make their own meaning from it. If it's vague enough and metaphorical enough, they will also get, like strength from it or whatever from it. Mm-hmm. And so, I can see how you would see it that way. To me, it's not really generational curses, but it's like maybe societal or social curses. Like
very good, yeah.
Yeah. So see, it's the same thing, like it's same vein. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy that you took that meaning from it. For me, it's like I'm the black sheep that painted itself white. Now I'm stuck being counted every single night. I think for a lot of my life, I've worked really hard at these other things that mean nothing to me. And I've ended up in different circles and in different places that I have no interest in being whatsoever.
Like school.
Exactly.
Me too. $74,000 in debt for a degree I didn't even get and I won't use, and I'm in debt forever.
It's like, and you have this pressure. Never done it.
Yeah. You gotta go. You gotta go to college. You've gotta buy a house. You've gotta have kids.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why do I gotta? I really just wanted to live in a van and play music. That's all I wanted to do. And now at 40, I'm like, my daughter, I don't want her to go to college. And my whole family is mad. She doesn't need to. She can if she wants, but she doesn't need to.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
And so at 42, I'm going to be living in a van by myself. Like, my whole life could have been different. You don't have to.
But also, I think the thing is, the world changes and it changes fast. Like, college doesn't mean what it did 20 or 30 years ago. It already means something completely different. And I think that that's good that you're doing that with your daughter, because you're seeing that the world has changed and
it has.
And we need to change too. So, but yeah, like it's exactly, and I can honestly think of 100 different examples of people that end up having to live their life one way when they don't want to. And so the song is like, for all of that, it came to me because of my own experience, but I hope that people take all different meanings from it. But
I liked that line though too, where I painted myself white and now I get counted every night.
Yeah, because I'm stuck jumping. I had this vision of being a sheep jumping over a fence while someone counts me. Like, the original idea for the music video, if I had the budget and the time, was I was going to be a guy who's dressed up as a sheep, and he's got a briefcase, and he like gets on the subway, and you see him like commute all the way to work dressed as a sheep, and then he finally gets to this field, and there's someone in a bed like next to this fence. And they shake hands, and the guy, like the other person, gets into bed with their little nightcap and their little punk shoe, The
old school bed, the old school like night, yeah.
Yeah, and so they get into bed, and then the sheep starts jumping over the fence over and over and over again, and that's his job. And like that was supposed to be the metaphor, but obviously I don't have I end up doing that.
Oh my God, you could have done it like, oh, damn it, Brent, if you're listening, this is your fault. He got me watching this show, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's the guy who played Frodo has like the dog, but it's really a man dressed in a dog costume.
Oh, yes.
It's Wilfred.
Yes. Wilfred.
You could have done that Wilfred style. It would have been hilarious.
Honestly, that's the name of the show, because in my head, I had this idea, and yeah.
your album is very, as we've talked about, kind of introspective and really interesting. Where do you come up with some of these lyrics? Like, we talked a little bit about how you write songs and how you do the guitar solos, but
I think it's something that we touched on last time. You asked me if I could give advice to like my younger self, or like someone who's maybe 18 and starting to write songs and pursue music. It's like I think of my life like almost like a movie, or like not like a movie, maybe like a story. And so I feel like when I think of things that way, it's easier to write about or to take little scenes from and describe the scene. I think that's how some of these songs come to me. And honestly, I do a lot of driving, and I think when I'm driving, I just think about things, or people will say a sentence, right? And just from a single sentence, like I derive so much like meaning, like damned if I do, right? Like I had told you the story of damned if I do. Yep. in the last interview. It's just stuff like that. Like you hear something and you go, oh yeah, like that's the story of my life. I think that's, honestly, to be completely honest, it feels like it comes to me from like some other place. And I hope that other place keeps sending me songs and never stops.
I hope it does too.
Yeah.
So I have seen you play live at Lookup Fest, and I plan on going again. I'm going to try to take Brent with me.
It was so fun. Wasn't that so cool?
That was so fun. And I hated feeling as old as I was. You know, go to Lookup Fest if you're in the area. If you're not in the area, it's still totally worth it. It'll be next year. It's an annual thing. So, I've seen you play live. Why don't you explain to my listeners what a live show with Elephants and Dogs is like?
You know, I think on stage, like I performed last night with Elephants and Dogs, so like I think even last night what I was thinking is just our songs are not like rock and roll, you know, like in a typical like 1980s sense.
Right.
So I try to make it feel like we're all hanging out together, and that you've come to hear the songs, you haven't come to hear do anything else. So it's very just like song after song after song. We try to make them blend into each other. Mm-hmm. You're getting the music, and when we do talk to the audience, it's mostly just to say thank you. And, you know, I don't always tell stories about what the songs are about. I don't remember if I did at Lookup, but...
No, I think you guys were like trying to roll through the bands and everybody get to play as long as they can. It was the vibe. Totally.
And like, so I guess like really a Elephants and Dogs show is just, it's just about the songs and people just maybe taking some time to, you know, they listen to it at home and just to take it in and see what it sounds like live. And so basically the other thing we do is like we don't have synths. We play only with guitars.
Right.
So I think the other side of it is like watching us reinterpret the songs. So I have two, I don't know what you'd call them, like philosophies or I don't know, but one of them is, in most of the venues we play, I don't think synths sound very good. And I don't know if some of my friends' bands are
on stage.
Yeah, I know a lot of bands I know they pull it off and it's fantastic.
They do, but it's hard.
It's very difficult to, it's very difficult.
And it's not going to sound, well, first off, anytime you play live, it's not going to sound like the album. You shouldn't sound like the album. There should be mistakes. You should be losing your voice and like talking with the crowd. And I think with synths that could get real muffled.
That's the thing. It's like, the venues we play, they're not big enough. They're not like, they don't have I find that I don't want to be like, I don't want to be lugging all of this gear, and I don't think it's going to the work it's going to take is not going to equal the product that I would want. So I don't want to use synths live. So that's one thing. The second thing is, at least now, like one day if I was had a huge production and we had tons of people, I would use synths. And the other thing that I have is that I love dream pop and I love shoegaze and bedroom pop, but in a live setting, it's so loud and people are talking and there's a bar going on and there's just all sorts of stuff going on, and I find that kind of music is easily overpowered, and even though it's beautiful and soft and I love it, and I support it. And I'm not going to be someone who's talking during the song. It's a kind of music that can easily get just drowned out, and so the thing is that when we perform these songs, I want to perform them like a garage band. I guess that's what I should have said. What's it like going to see an Elephants and Dogs?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, it's like seeing a garage band. Like we're playing with distorted guitars. The songs are the same, the structures are the same, but we're just playing it for a live bar setting. And I think people like that. Like I think they realize that like, oh, this is the song I recognize, but just played like for the bar tonight, and I think if a song is really good, it doesn't matter how you play it, it'll always be good. So that's the other thing that I am banking on.
So good. I honestly just haven't heard anything from Look Up that I don't like, so maybe I'm biased. I'm a little biased. Did you get to try out any new gear on tour? And did you use anything new on the album?
Yeah, so there was.
This is a Brent question.
I was gonna say.
Brent loves gear.
There's a guitar tone in the 70s that I'm like really in love with, and it's on a few different songs. I heard that on VMC. I already hear in my head what you're talking about. Well, but actually it's a little bit different. There's like on the song Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John, there's this arpeggio guitar that's buried in the mix. And it's so pretty, and it's in a lot of different 70s songs. There's a couple Beatles songs that have this like crystally arpeggio. The song there's some songs by Badfinger that also use this. And what it is it's basically a Leslie speaker, which is like they use it for organs. But guitarists will plug their guitar into it, and it's very specific. If you play like a very specific kind of arpeggio through this Leslie speaker, I'm just in love with this 1970s sound that is on some songs and usually buried in the mix. And so me and Zach, I was trying to describe this to Zach, and Zach and I tried to make it happen with digital plugins, and it wasn't really working. So Zach works at this music store, like our equivalent of Guitar Center.
Everybody has to have that one friend that works at a Guitar Center. It's an imperative piece of the puzzle.
Totally. And so he goes and he buys this really expensive pedal that remakes a Leslie cabinet, and we used it on the album.
Nice.
In a couple different spots, and I didn't use it in the same way that it's used on Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. Like I loved it. And I got to see Elton John actually a couple weeks ago with my mom. It was my gift to her, me and my siblings' gift to her.
I wanted to do that for my mom. I'm so jealous. How good was he? I know it was amazing live.
It was amazing, yeah. And so he plays with his original guitarist.
He
from
does.
the 70s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so, I couldn't really see, but I'm sure he has a Leslie's cabinet or some equivalent.
He's got it all. He's got everything.
Yeah. So anyway, but we got to use that on the album and on Black Sheep. So like in the chorus, that line that's like, like, I don't know, that's through that pedal, and I think it's on Coffin Song too, and so that was the coolest piece of gear, and I might buy one myself because that pedal is so
What's it
perfect.
Called?
I don't even know. I know.
Because I know Brent is going to listen to this next week and be like, "What's it called?"
I have him on Instagram. I'll message him. But it was.
He'll be like, "I need to know what it is."
So let him suffer a bit.
Let's give him a week or so.
The problem is it's a huge pedal, so I don't know if I'd ever be able to put on my pedal board.
You guys always have like the craziest pedals.
Yeah, but it was so perfect. So Zach bringing that was, I think, the coolest piece of gear that we used on the album. Yeah.
Are you going to take it on tour when you tour with this album?
No, because like I said, it's way too big and way too expensive.
How big is it?
It was like, how can I describe it? It was like maybe like a dinner plate. Like you might think, oh, that's not that big, but on a pedal board, that's like takes up a huge amount of space. I
think you should do it, and I think you should just carry it around with you and be like, no touchy.
Yeah.
This is mine.
Well, another thing like that you were saying about the back to basics stuff is that like the other reason for that is like, I don't want anything to get stolen. I don't want beer to get spilled on stuff. So using cheaper run-of-the-mill gear that no one really wants or that's really beat up already, like, that's been what I've been doing recently because, like, I'm not worried about it getting stolen or worried. Like, obviously I don't want it to get stolen, but, like, if it did, it's a much smaller hit to lose a $50 pedal than, like, a $400 pedal. Make the bad stuff sound good instead of making good stuff sound bad, I think.
That's smart. That's smart. Because then you can play fucking anywhere. Because no matter what, you're like, I know how to play this song so it is going to sound relatable.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it, too. I know how to make this work with what I have, and what I have is accessible to me.
Exactly.
Financially. Yeah.
Where can people buy this new album?
They can buy it on Bandcamp. That'd be the best thing to do. If you want to support the music, just go to Bandcamp. I think you can set your own price. Anything helps. So you can actually buy a CD.
From Lookup?
From Lookup off of Bandcamp. CDs look really cool. They have the smiley faces even on the cover of the CD itself.
Oh, I kind of want one now. That's nice.
Yeah, so it should be cool.
All right, everybody. Thank you again for listening to Sound Pollution this week. We appreciate you. Make sure you are following, subscribing, and downloading this episode. It does make a difference, and we do need that assistance. Don't forget about the show at the Carousel Lounge this month, the 26th. Come on down and see us. If you're not a patron and you want to be, that link will be below in the description section, along with the links to follow Elephants and Dogs and purchase that album on Bandcamp. Today, that's all I have for you. Busy getting ready for the show. And the world is crazy and we're just trying to make it happen. So you get out there and remember to make some noise.